Canada and China have strong ties, ever-expanding trade, currency swap agreements expanding between the two nations, Canada's involvement in the AIIB, and so much more. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to talk about Canada. We are going to talk about China and their expansion together. Let's begin right away. I want to make this a quick video, beginning with this article out of the Globe and Mail. Beijing pressing for full access to Canada's economy in trade talks. There's a lot of in this article and the rest. I'm just going to cover just a few points from it. China's new envoy says Beijing is seeking unfettered access for Chinese state-owned, that's important, firms to all key sectors of the Canadian economy during free trade talks now underway, including an end to restrictions barring these enterprises from investing in the oil sands. What they talk about in this is basically that they want to allow an expansion, less restrictions, let us invest. But what they say down here, you'll see, all enterprises should be treated equally, no matter if they are state-owned or private. They are equal. They are both Chinese enterprises. So there is a little discussion saying, should we allow the China state-owned enterprises to invest in the sort of infrastructure that they want to, and this being the oil sands? So they want to be able to bring oil out of Canada. They want to funnel that towards China. That's the goal. And this is something that has been a concern. And I do believe that, and I'll give my opinion right now, there's two sides to this. Foreign investment is good in a way. Obviously, you bring money from the outside. You have businesses that see the oil sands, as an example, as a business-making opportunity. They see oil, they see business. At the same time, they're going to be able to hire Canadian people, bringing jobs, bringing money in. There's engineers, there's people that work on the ground, there's everything. And it's, in a sense, good for the economy. You have a commodities exporting nation like Canada that wants to be able to do business like this. I get it. It's great. Understood. However, take another example. What if the ties between China and Canada 20 years from now are very bad? What would happen to these corporations? Would they then shut off the oil? Are they going to perhaps have their own concerns about, what's going on between the two nations? No, you individuals are not allowed here. You individual, you're restricted, this and that. All the business that goes on is suddenly halted. There's a lot of concerns. What about a tech company, for example? They all of a sudden start giving away information back to their state. That's my concern. Sure, business-wise, it's great. Okay? No doubt about it. But you run into civil liberty problems. You run into the problems of tension down the road. That's my concern with it. I'll move on here. I want to know your thoughts on that, of course. China is Canada's second largest single country trading partner and a key market for Canada in the Asia Pacific region. So there's no doubt that US is number one. They export a really, really large amount to the US. But number two, which would surprise a lot of people, is in fact China. In 2016, two-way trade, merchandise trade amounted to $85 billion. Foreign direct relationship with China, $33 billion at the end of 2015. And it goes on. There's a lot in here. I'm not going to get into it too much. I just wanted to note the fact that, look, trade is expanding between China, between Canada. And they want that to go into more of these free trade agreements. There's no actually such thing as free trade. Of course, you know this. If you are, for example, from Canada, you want to buy something in the US, it comes across the border. You pay fees, you pay taxes, you pay everything. Don't think there's, free trade and things just go to and from like that. I mean, it's obvious. It's very simple. You buy something, you're in Canada, you buy something from the US. Most of the time it comes across the border And you got to pay fees, you got to pay taxes, you got to pay, all these things. It's not really free trade for you and I. What it means is that corporations get a break. The big corporations, that is, not you if you're a small business and you're trying to do business. No. It's corporations get a break. That's what free trade agreements are all about. All right, let me move on quickly. What we would like to export to China. This is an article out of CBC. It's an old article, but the point is made. Simply put, oil. We currently export a ridiculous 99% of our energy products to the southern neighbor, that's the US. And then they're talking about the Keystone Pipeline and everything else. It's important to note where the commodities in any commodity exporting nation are going. They're going to the US, that's key, but they want things to change. China's interest in Canadian crude is well established, given that the Asian giant has made a multi-billion-dollar investments in Canadian oil companies. Okay, so that's what's happening. Look at China's investment in Hollywood as an example. Sure, it might be okay for them to do that, but will that change the image? And is there going to be able to be, criticism of China if all of a sudden all of the media is owned by China? Obviously, there's not going to be the same level of criticism, if any. China's state-owned company, Sinopec, is a financial backer of Enbridge. Proposed Northern Gateway pipeline is going to funnel oil from Alberta, and then it could be shipped over to China. So that's important to note. What their plans are, what they want to do. Foreign investment coming in, we take your oil, we bring it back, and we use it. It's a simple matter of fact. And this is profitable for everyone along the lines. Let's say that it's profitable. But is it smart? You have to sort of weigh the pros and cons. There's no doubt about it. This article talks about NAFTA. Trump said he wants to tweak the Canadian-US side of NAFTA, but focusing on the unfair trade relationship between US and Mexico. So this is something about NAFTA that I just want to briefly mention. NAFTA isn't beneficial to any country. It doesn't benefit a country. It benefits corporations. Now, what will be done about it, I'm sure, is, I'm hoping that we see some good news. I'm hoping. I got a bad feeling about it, but I'm hoping that we see some good news coming out. With everything Trump has said, trying to renegotiate everything, I think in the end, in the longer term, it's beneficial for everybody to just have single pacts between nations, if anything, to have a single pact between a nation. When you have all of these pacts set up, this huge trade TPP and all this stuff, it's just everybody gets screwed over in the end. All right, let's move on right here. Canada has officially, this is new, officially received approval to get into the AIIB. They say controversial China-led infrastructure bank, but I don't think it's controversial at all. What's controversial about it is the fact that it sort of represents an opposition to the World Bank and the IMF. And that there is its controversy. It's not really controversial in the way that they like to bring it out. No, I disagree with that. Because it's simply able to do whatever it wants to do. I mean, if it's going to bring in money from all over the world, including Canada, then it's obviously beneficial. It's a good thing for China, for everyone involved. We don't have to have the hegemony of the IMF and the World Bank ruling everything. There should at least be competition. I agree with, even though I'm sure that it's not a good situation for freedom and liberty, I think it's better to have competition. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, moving on, switching gears. We're going from Canada, which obviously has a very big real estate problem right now, and you have Chinese investment, big Chinese investment going on inside of Canadian real estate. I want to move that towards what we look at the real estate issue in San Francisco, then comparing that to the rest of the US. CNBC worked with Realtor.com to see how far $1.3 million goes. $1.3 million in San Francisco might only get you 800 square feet of space. 800 square feet for $1.3 million. Contrast that to an area like Houston, where you get 6,000 square feet of real estate. Now, there's a huge chasm in between the two, obviously, and that shows you how serious the divide has become. Where is, divide in between the rich and the poor, divide in between the different cities around, the different states, provinces, wherever you live. You can't just say the US is doing bad. It's not really a fair assessment. You have to look at it in smaller pockets. Different sectors of the economy are doing bad. Different sectors are doing well. You need to really break it down and really be honest about it and forthcoming. What I would say about real estate here is that if you talk to people in Toronto today, as an example, $1 million, well, that's nothing. You're not going to get anything for $1 million today in Toronto. That's generally the consensus now. $1 million. Now, if everybody's making $250,000 a year, I would say the same thing. However, that's just not the case. Wages have barely increased at all over the years, yet the housing prices have risen so dramatically. You can't do that, okay? That's just not going to be sustainable, and that is a big problem. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention. You can't have foreign investment buy it all up. The only way this would be, you can't have home ownership, let's say, if all the foreign investment is buying it up and pushing the prices up. Cyborgs at work, employees getting implanted with microchips. This was brought to me also by a subscriber. And I already had this article queued up. I have multiple videos, the articles of which queued up at any given time. And I try to piece them together so everything flows. That's the way I do it, right? So if I find a lot of information on Canada, I just keep putting it to a folder, putting it in there, and then when I get enough for a good video, then I sort of lay that out. So some information is a little older than others. Anyway, this article basically talking about the technology. This company is giving people the opportunity, let's say, I'll use that word lightly, the voluntarily allowed to put a microchip inside you. You could use it to open the doors. You can use it to pay for your groceries and this and that. The problem I have is, they're saying, look, I want to be part of the future. That's what this is all about. I think it's a little bit of a problem. Already, people are attached to their technology, wearable tech. You have cell phones basically implanted in people's faces. And then you have an actual chip inside the body. Then you remove that separation, that minimal separation in between human and technology, and it sort of becomes one. And obviously Ray Kurzweil and others have talked publicly about this, Elon Musk even, that they want it or that it would be needed. I think it's a big concern. I think it's a big problem for the future. But anyway, just wanted to bring that to you. Last but not least, I'm not going to get into the article, but just wanted to mention the fact that the parent company of Mercedes essentially is wanting to work in with robo-taxis. They want to have the ability to transport individuals without the need of a human being. And that's where it's all going. Robotics, automation will replace jobs. Now, it brings in a new sector of jobs. That is very beneficial. I think it's great. But I think ultimately, in like a total sense, that jobs will be lost as a result. That's the point. The point is to eliminate these jobs. And that's working really well, whether or not that's a good thing or not. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. Remember that when you give me a thumbs up, it helps me out very much with my YouTube channel, so I appreciate that. If you found the video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS, and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can get these books in Kindle format. You can get them on Amazon in paperback format. If you don't like Amazon for whatever reason, or you have another bookstore, it should be available everywhere. You might have to do a special request, but I know it's available at Barnes & Noble and others. So if you want to get them there, you prefer that, that's totally cool. And it should be available in Amazon stores all around the world. No matter which Amazon locale you're in, you can get it from there. I'm also expanding into audiobooks as well. I want to know if you are interested in audiobooks. I am I've already produced the Global Economic Collapse one, and I'm working on the Money GPS one. So stay tuned for that. I'm selling that on my website itself because as a Canadian author, apparently I'm not allowed to sell that on Amazon's own website for whatever reason. So that's going to be done through my own website. The cool thing about that is that I have full control over it. I could set the price. I could do whatever I want with it. Maybe I can package them together. I can do all sorts of things. So look for that in the near future. I'm working on all the technology stuff, but it takes me a really long time with that stuff. So stay tuned for that. I want to know your interest in the audiobooks as well. So please stay tuned. If you want to look through the books, go over to Amazon. There's a link in the description below. If you're still here, just wanted to let you know a little transparency here. This is actually the second time I did this video. I ran through the entire video, and at the end of the video, when I clicked stop, I realized I wasn't even recording. Oops. Take care.